File items 75, 76, and 77, we will pass and retain. Moving to file item 78, H.R. 5, the clerk will read.
House Resolution 5 by Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, relative to Mexico and human rights.
Ms. Garcia, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, this is an important issue for me, and I know it's an important issue for many members of this body. Today I present H.R. 5 pertaining to Mexico and human rights. It's no secret that Mexico's government has long been plagued with corruption. One of the most recent and atrocious violations occurred in Iguala last summer. This measure adds the Assembly to the multitude of voices that condemns the disappearance of 43 students and demands that Mexico begin to address the human rights violations that run rampant within the country. Since then, our state and our nation have engaged politically with our neighbor to the south. Last summer, when President Peña Nieto addressed the California legislature, he spoke of the reforms implemented during the first months of his presidency. He spoke of the reforms that focus on safeguarding human rights and streamlining the process for citizens to use their protective tool against abuse of authority that violate their rights. However, his words and actions of his government do not match. Instead of seriously addressing the concerns of his citizens, he traveled abroad to visit other governments and characterized the citizens' protests as a conspiracy to destabilize the government. The massacre in Iguala perfectly illustrates the situation in Mexico. The government, the law enforcement, and the drug cartels are connected, creating an environment riddled with crime and violence that is driving thousands of refugees to take dangerous journeys to the United States. Earlier this month, a report was released by the Washington Office of Latin America, a Mexican human rights organization, regarding another incident that occurred in Tlaxcala. Initially described as armed clash, testimony of survivors indicated that at least a dozen of the more than 20 killed had been shot to death after they had surrendered or while lying wounded. The report found that Mexican army soldiers were acting on orders to eliminate suspected criminals in the darkness without regard to their rights or due process. 82 members of Congress, in response to these incidents, sent a letter to Secretary of State John Kerry. The letter states that these two cases are not isolated and illustrate the pattern of human rights violations, which include torture, detentions, kidnapping, and extrajudicial execution. And the irony is that Mexico receives millions of dollars in aid aimed in part at overhauling the nation's police and judicial system. California needs to send the message. If we're going to be political or economic partners with neighboring countries, we need to hold them accountable. California is an economic powerhouse. We are in a position to insist that Mexican government begin to seriously address the injustices they have long been associated with. Our cooperation should not come without strings. And really, that should just be the beginning. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Alejo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I want to, first of all, rise and on behalf of the Latino Caucus in support of H.R. 5, because on September 26th of last year, not even a year ago, 43 college students from the Ayotzinapa Teachers College, future teachers in Guerrero, Mexico, tragically disappeared in that city of Iguala. And after weeks of worry and fear filled the minds and hearts of their loved ones, of these 43 students, the parents and brothers and sisters, Mexico's Attorney General announced that 43 missing students were executed and incinerated in a municipal dump in Cocula, Mexico. These atrocious murders were done by the Guerreros Unidos cartel at the behest of corrupt elected officials. These murders are one of the worst atrocities Mexico has seen in recent years, but is sadly nowhere an isolated incident. It is estimated that 25,000 to 26,000 people have disappeared from Mexico since 2006, many who have been poor immigrants, migrants, indigenous people, women, and children. The corruption that plagues Mexico, resulting in thousands of deaths and disappearances of innocent people, is unacceptable, and it is up to us as a neighbor to the country of Mexico to stand in unity with those who are seeking justice and standing up for human rights. The deaths of these missing students from Mexico are a violation of human rights, one which needs to be recognized by the Mexican government. We all know that the people of Mexico, especially their young people, deserve a better future. I want to thank the author for bringing this resolution forward and look forward to supporting the international human rights community as we work together to resolve these injustices, and may the memory of these 43 students and their families never be forgotten.
Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, I too rise in support of H.R. 5. Today, we have an opportunity to play a key role in the advancement of human rights, not just in Mexico, but around the world. Without high-profile government bodies like the California State Legislature standing in witness to human right violations, there will be no accountability for these atrocities. With the adoption of the resolution, we shed a brighter light on the unjust treatment of millions of individuals around the world who live with the threat of being taken from their homes, their work, or even their schools. As defenders of human rights and importance of the rule of law, we must stand for those that have no power. California must add its voice to the global condemnation of the abduction and the murder of 43 students and thousands of more individuals who have disappeared in Mexico. Members, the Economic Development and Economy Committee saw this bill before them. It passed 9-0 with bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your support on H.R. 5 as well. Thank you.
Assemblymember Chavez, you're recognized.
I would just like to not go through the history because I think it's covered very well. I know there's some discussion on is this going to be bipartisan or not and how we're going to stand with it. This body has taken a number of resolutions on international issues. We made a statement on the Armenian genocide. We made a statement on the Sikhs. I think it's totally appropriate to make a statement on this issue to somebody who's actually our neighbor. Standing up for human rights is always the right thing to do. Will it impact everybody across the country? Will it impact Mexico? Probably not to a great deal, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be said. So I'd ask that we have a bipartisan strong support for this resolution. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, you may close.
I want to thank my colleagues who spoke on behalf of today's resolution and standing with me for the 43 missing students, their families, and all the other folks who have human rights violations with our partner to the south. I would request that the first roll call be open for co-authors and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Assemblymember Garcia has asked for the first roll to be called for open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. 70 co-authors are added, and we will also take a roll call vote on this measure. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Aye 70, no 0. The resolution is adopted. Going now to file item 79, AJR 17. The clerk will read.
Assembly Joint Resolution 17 by Assemblymember Lopez relative to the Foster Care Tax Credit Act.
Assemblymember Lopez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Resolution 17 urged the Congress to pass a tax credit for families who care for the foster children for a short time. Those families could be available to get a tax credit up to $1,000 each year per child. This credit is prorated by the numbers among the foster child is in family care. Assembly Resolution 17 in support of the foster care credits, which seek to help many families who care for the foster children for 6 months or less, who unlikely longer-term family not receive tax credit. Now is a child care tax credit. I respectfully request for you to vote and leave it for open to the co-authors.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the first roll will be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. There are 64 co-authors added. We need to take a roll call vote on this AJR. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 67, no 0. The AJR is passed. File item 80, we will pass and retain. File item 81, ACR 85, the clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 85 by Assemblymember Gordon relative to medically fragile foster care children and adopted placement children.
Mr. Gordon, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. ACR 85 would declare the month of November 2015 as a month to raise awareness about the issue of medically fragile foster care children and adoptive placement children. California has over 60,000 children in our foster care system. A certain subset of the foster care population is medically fragile. These are children who have physical or intellectual disabilities or both, and they require an increased level of care and support. It is especially difficult to place medically fragile foster care and adoptive placement children due to the increased level of care they need. Every child deserves the opportunity to achieve his or her fullest potential in a safe, stable, and loving environment. We need to raise awareness of the actions that every Californian can take to make positive differences in these children's lives. For that reason, I respectfully request an aye vote and ask that the first roll be open for co-authors.
Seeing and hearing no further discussion, the first roll will be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. 73 co-authors are added. And without objection, we can take a voice vote on this measure. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Going to file item 82, ACR 77, the clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 77 by Assemblymember Mark Stone and others relative to California Early Intervention Services Act.
Mr. Stone, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a resolution that calls on the state of California to ensure that all kids, especially our youngest kids, are screened at the earliest possible moment for developmental delays. We know that the earlier the screening, the earlier we can connect the kids to the services that they require, the sooner and the more effectively we can address whatever delays that they may be experiencing, especially with the fact that only 72% of children in California do not actually get screened. And in our communities of color, the average for the time that kids get screened is 2.5 years later than for the rest of the population. This shows we are not screening the kids that we need to. We are not getting them to the services that they so desperately need. And identifying those issues helps to reduce the stresses in the families and reduces the incidences of child abuse, incidences of spousal abuse, because by identifying and providing services, we take those pressures off of the families. This is a very important resolution, a statement by this legislature that we want to ensure that California is screening all of our kids. I respectfully request your support on this resolution, and I ask, Mr. Speaker, that the first roll be held open for co-authors.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the first roll call will be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. 72 co-authors are added. And without objection, we can take a voice vote on this measure. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. File item 83, we will pass and retain. File item 84, ACR 58. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 58 by Assemblymember Williams relative to memorial paths and access highways.
Mr. Williams, you may open.
Morning, members. ACR 58 designates a local bike path in Ventura County in honor of a local bicycle advocate, Ralph Fertig. Secondly, the ACR would designate a coastal access point after Peter Douglas, former executive director of the California Coastal Commission. Ralph was a tireless advocate for bicycling improvements and smart transportation planning. He was a regular fixture at the design meetings for the 101 HOV lanes project, making sure that pedestrians and cyclists were always part of the equation. He passed away in 2014 from cancer. Peter Douglas served as the ED of the California Coastal Commission for 25 years. As many of you know, he's instrumental in providing coastal access to California residents and personally fought to have the Caltrans facility provide coastal access. He passed away in 2012 after a long battle with cancer. Proud to be naming two beautiful facilities after two remarkable advocates, and ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Williams, would you like the first roll to be open for co-authors? Okay. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. 70 co-authors are added. And this item, along with the next three items, are naming designation items and will all require a roll call vote. At this time, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes, ayes 72, no 0. The resolution passes. File item 85, ACR 63, the clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 63 by Assemblymember Mainshine and others relative to the Tony Gwynn Memorial Freeway.
Mr. Mainshine, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. For many San Diegans, Tony Gwynn is the epitome of San Diego Padres baseball. Gwynn was a well-rounded athlete, excelling both at baseball and basketball. Recruited to San Diego State University to play basketball in 1977, Gwynn also joined the university's baseball team in 1979. During his undergraduate career, Gwynn was named to 2 All-American baseball teams as an outfielder and 2 All-Western Athletic Conference teams for basketball. Upon graduation from San Diego State University, Gwynn was drafted not only by the San Diego Padres, but by the San Diego Clippers as well. Gwynn pursued the opportunity with baseball and the Padres and made his first appearance in 1982. His 20-year tenure with the Padres and loyal dedication to the team earned him the beloved nickname Mr. Padre. There were many times Tony could have left San Diego to make more money in other cities, but he always stayed because of his deep love and affection for San Diego. Gwynn's passion for the team was matched by his passion to excel at the sport. Gwynn retired with a .338 batting average and over 3,141 hits and played 2,400 games. Gwynn retired 17th on the all-time hit list, 17th on the double list, and 8th on the all-time singles list. Gwynn was inducted into the Padres Hall of Fame upon his retirement in 2001, in the Padres Hall of Fame, and then the National Baseball Hall of Fame in July 2007. Mr. Padre was not only a champion on the field, but a champion for this community as well. Alongside his wife, Gwynn established the Tony and Alicia Gwynn Foundation to create and support programs that enhance opportunities for children. The ACR will honor the memory of the late baseball great by renaming a stretch of Interstate 15 in San Diego County as the Tony Gwynn Memorial Freeway. Thank you very much, members, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Mainshine, would you like the first roll to be open for co-authors? The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. There are 73 co-authors added. And the clerk will open the roll on the measure itself. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 73, no 0. The resolution is adopted. Going now to file item 86, ACR 65. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 65 by Assemblymember Breaux and others relative to the James Mitchell Mitch Waller Memorial Highway.
Mr. Breaux, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. ACR 65 names a portion of the 405 after former Westminster Police Chief Mitch Waller of Mission Viejo. On June 28, 2013, Mitch was tragically killed while biking with a friend. For nearly 30 years, Mitch served in the Westminster Police Department, eventually becoming its chief. During his tenure, he earned a law degree and attended the prestigious FBI National Academy. In recognition of his leadership abilities, Mitch was appointed Westminster City Manager in 2011. He had an incredible impact on the people with whom he came in contact with. I ask you join me in honoring Mitch on the highway that connected the two communities where he lived and worked. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Breaux, would you like the first roll to be open for co-authors?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. 74 co-authors are added. And let's open the roll again for a roll call vote on this item. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 74, no 0. The resolution is adopted. File item 87. ACR 78, the clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 78 by Assemblymember Salas relative to the CHP Officer Gerald E. Dormeyer Memorial Interchange.
Mr. Salas, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. ACR 78 designates the junction at State Highway Route 99 and 166 in Kern County as the CHP Officer Gerald Dormeyer Memorial Interchange. Officer Dormeyer was killed in the line of duty. In recognition of Officer Dormeyer's great contributions and sacrifice in serving the state of California, it is an honor and it is appropriate to designate this interchange in his honor. With that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Salas, would you like the first roll to be open for co-authors?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors, members. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. 74 co-authors are added. And the clerk will open the roll on this measure. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 74, no 0. The resolution is adopted. File items 88 and 89 we will pass and retain. File item 90 for amendments, SB 470. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 470 with amendments by Assemblymember Stone.
Mr. Stone, you may present.
Thank you. This is before us for an amendment that would solve some chaptering out issues with Assemblymember Chow's AB 1141. This is Senator Jackson's bill on summary adjudications and summary judgments. I ask for your support of these amendments.
Seeing and hearing no further debate on the amendments, we can take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File item 91, we will pass and retain. File item 92, SCR 56. The clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 56 by Senator Pan and others relative to Taiwanese American Heritage Week.
Assemblymember Kansen Chu, you may open.
Thank you, speakers and members. I rise today to present SCR 56, which recognizes the 17th Annual Taiwanese American Heritage Week. Taiwanese American Heritage Week was first established by President Bill Clinton in 1999 to celebrate the many Taiwanese Americans' contribution to the United States. As home to roughly half of all Taiwanese in the United States, California has been the beneficiary of countless hardworking, industrious, and innovative individuals and scholars that have contributed immensely to the growth of our state in the field of education, sports, economics, entertainment, and policy making. Members, please join me in sponsoring SCR 56 to recognize Taiwanese American Heritage Week. And I'd like to have the first row open for co-authoring.
Assemblymember Kim, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in strong support of SCR 56. The Taiwanese American community is one of the most spirited and thriving communities in the United States. As some of you are aware, I worked for over 2 decades as a congressional staff, serving as Director of Community Relations and Director of Asian Affairs. In that capacity, I've had the delightful experience of meeting regularly with the Taiwanese American constituents, from whom I've learned about the issues that they care about: family values, education, economy, but most importantly, the importance of visa waiver program. Fortunately, Taiwan is now enjoying this visa waiver program, which went into effect since November 2012. So as a result, I'm proud to say that many families from Taiwan have easier time traveling to the United States to visit with their family members, and I know many of you have constituents from that area. And just as important, business travelers from Taiwan can now board a plane without delay and close a deal in the United States contributing to our economy. And Taiwanese Americans have naturally served as cultural ambassadors, as a bridge between our cultures, and their success is something well worth celebrating. So since 1999, as Congress designated 1 week in May as Taiwanese American Heritage Week, I've always proudly joined my friends in the Taiwanese American community, participating in many festivities and activities, tasting their delicious food, simply enjoying and appreciating their rich culture and heritage. So it's with great pride that I rise in support of this SCR 56, and I ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Assemblymember Chang, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to thank Senator Pan for this resolution. I was born in Taiwan and an immigrant from Taiwan, and just want to say that why Taiwan? And I ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Assemblymember Bonilla, you're recognized.
I, too, had the privilege of being born in Taiwan and living there till I was 18. So I can speak very personally about the great hospitality that was extended to my family in the many years that we had the honor of living in Taiwan. And so it's very fitting that we reciprocate that warm welcome and that hospitality by recognizing our strong ties, our good trade relationships, and the amazing contributions of all of the Chinese who from Taiwan live in our communities. I urge an aye vote.
Assemblymember Baker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise in support of this matter and thank our colleague in the Senate for bringing it forward. I wasn't born in Taiwan, but I did make my first trip away from home as a high school student at age 15 to get to live with the family in Taiwan, stay there for several weeks during the summer, travel the country, and see firsthand what a rich and wonderful culture is there. And in our own communities here in California, see the great contribution that Taiwanese Americans are making to our state in trade and in our shared values. So I thank the colleagues for this measure and urge your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further discussion, Assemblymember Chu, you may close.
Well, thank you very much. I again ask for the first roll will be open for co-author.
The first roll will be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors. The clerk will close the roll. There are 74 co-authors added. And without objection, we will take a voice vote on this measure. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This resolution is adopted. At this time, I'd like to go back to guest introductions to re-recognize Assemblymember Chu for his guests related to this resolution.
Thank you, speakers and members, for your overwhelming support. I'm very honored to welcome to the floor the newest Director General of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in San Francisco, Joseph Chong Ling Ma. Director General Ma boasts a long and illustrious career in foreign services for the Taipei government, which includes various leadership roles in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both in Taiwan and abroad, including serving in Palau, Sweden, and served once before in San Francisco from 1989 to 1996. In 2010, Director General Ma served as a visiting scholar with the Center for Democracy, Development, and Rules of Law at Stanford University. So he is not a stranger to the state. And I want to especially note that this today is his first official day in his new role as the Taipei's representative in San Francisco. So please join me and give him a warm California welcome to Director General Ma.
Thank you, Assemblymember Chu. We have one more guest introduction that I'd like to go to at this time. I'd like to first recognize Mr. Frazier for that introduction. Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise today to introduce Greg Parch. Greg is a resident of Vacaville and the new executive director of the California Pipe Trades Council, which represents thousands of locals through California. Greg, who has served as an elected union official since 2001, joined the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters in 1978 and served his apprenticeship at Local 343 located in Vallejo. Greg's father, an Air Force veteran, eventually settled his family in my district in Vacaville near Travis Air Force Base. Years later, Greg would meet and marry his wonderful wife, Rhonda, who grew up close by in Fairfield. In fact, Rhonda just recently retired from the Fairfield Unified School District, where she worked as an accountant. Greg and Rhonda have been married for 34 years and have two wonderful children together, a son, Gregory, and a daughter, Corey. They have been blessed with two grandchildren, Mackenzie and Haley. Members, please help me welcome Mr. Greg Parch.
I'd also like to recognize Mr. Williams for this same guest introduction.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, members. I'd like to join my colleague from Oakley in recognizing Mr. Greg Parch and his wife, Rhonda, visiting us today from Vacaville. As new executive director of the California Pipe Trades Council, which represents over 300,000 plumbers and pipe fitters across North America. He's brought a wealth of experience. He's served as an elected union officer since 2001, and it's a great honor to have them here today, and I look forward to us as the legislature having a good working relationship. Please help me welcome Mr. Greg and Rhonda Parch.
Colleagues, we're going to go back to the daily file. File items 93 and 94, we will pass and retain. File item 95 is an item that I will present, and we will pass temporarily on that item. File number 96 has already been dispensed with. Going now to file item 97, SB 432, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 432 by Senator Mendoza, an act relating to public works.
Mr. Alejo, you're recognized to present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 432 will seek to improve an outdated statute by deleting from the Labor Code the offensive and derogatory term alien as a definition for an immigrant individual. This bill also deletes an outdated requirement in law that prescribes in order for the issuance of employment under public work contracts, first to citizens of the United States, second to citizens of other states in the country, and third to aliens. In 1937, the legislature enacted various provisions regarding the employment of so-called aliens, defined as a person who was not born or fully naturalized citizen of the United States. The legislature repealed most of these laws in 1970, but unfortunately the definition for alien and this order for offering employment in public works contracts were not repealed and are still found in the Labor Code. Members, these provisions have no place in the laws of our state, and more importantly, should never be the basis of employment hiring protocol. SB 432 would delete these outdated, discriminatory, and unnecessary references in law. This bill received unanimous support on the Senate floor and has no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. The measure passes.